Welcome back, everybody, to 33 over 32 podcast. Today we're going over the NFL schedule for this upcoming season. As the news broke earlier last week, we went straight to the books to see what games we were going to go to, what games we were very excited for. So thought today would be the best bet to go over the future opponents and, the best matchups that we can contain for each of our squads, as well going over a few other things like the international and why the hell the Vikings only have two primetime games in the season. Don't ask me that. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. But to rip it off, I would kind of want to go through a little bit more of the prime times and actually discuss that since we're on it. Do you either one of you have an intake on any thoughts of how they structured this primetime schedule for these primetime games?
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing is I would have liked to see a little bit more of the divisional matchups on the prime time. I think at least going from what the Bengals schedule was looking like this year for our primetime games, we're playing the Commanders, we're playing the Giants on prime time, and the Cowboys. That's not only, outside of the division, that's outside of the conference. It's just not really something that I was expecting. I kind of figured that we would get to play the Steelers in prime time, have more games in the interdivision that would be on prime time. So it was a little questionable for me. Being a Bengals fan, it was just a little bit weird to see that, especially the Commanders, that first primetime game on Monday Night Football. I don't know. I didn't really agree with it too much. I mean, Greg, what is your thoughts on that?
I mean, I kind of agree with you at the first, original Monday Nighter. Why are we having, San Francisco against New York? Why is that a thing for Monday Night Football? We saw what happened last year with Aaron Rodgers being on primetime. I believe it was Monday Night Football. And the dude tore his Achilles. So this is literally plotting the same type of scenario until we reach the climax of his other 40-year-old Achilles to snap. And truthfully, it's kind of pointless, as well as following suit with Eagles Falcons. What's all that about? Keeping Kirk in primetime week 2? Okay. Jaguars Bills. That's the next week's Monday. Like it makes no sense to me. And then having I can say you're breeding into some divisionals such as the Vikings Bears, but that's not until week 15. And not only is it not until week 15, you're also hitting a double header. And then you can face off of like the Jets Bills. You can see other teams that come in like that. I just personally don't like the Monday night schedule. I really don't. I mean, it has no anticipation, and I'm not really excited for it, even knowing that that's one of our sole primetime games. Matt, what about you? Do you have any thoughts on it? I know the Giants have 6 primetime games this year, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that they have that many, but I think it's their 100th anniversary and they want to you know, represent the Giants well this year. But I like a lot of these games though for primetime games. A lot of them have good storylines. So like week 1, we have the what is it? Cowboys 49. Is that week? No, it's week 8, sorry. Week 1 is
Rams
it
Lions if you're talking
Rams
Sunday night
Lions. That was
football.
it. And I was also thinking of the Packers
Yeah.
Eagles game on Friday, which is an interesting game. But yeah, a lot of storyline games. I'm looking at Broncos Saints is interesting because of Sean Payton. Yeah, Lions 49ers is really interesting because of the NFC Championship game. Ravens
I
Chiefs,
think
Yeah,
right.
another
of course.
championship game. I mean, that's
Yep.
really good. Rams Lions was an amazing playoff game last year. And then Texans Cowboys, Texas game. So I think that's a really good game as well. But yeah, a lot of good storylines, a lot of good matchups. I like the primetime schedule, to be honest.
I mean, I can agree the Sunday night. Sorry, I can agree the Sunday night football schedule is a lot more anticipating than the Monday night in my eyes. I mean, going back to what you were saying, the storylines are there. The Cowboys Niners in week 8, I believe, is Sunday night football. That's huge. Then you have Caleb against C.J. Stroud, the two up and coming stars, and then you have why in the world Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins facing week 3 on Sunday night football. I mean, are you just trying to place a team there?
Yeah.
Like, what is
Yeah.
that all about?
Yeah, I
I
100%
mean,
agree with that. I think that's pretty random in that aspect, especially the Chiefs going there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
this also brings to your two teams in week 6 when the Bengals visit the Giants at MetLife for Sunday Night Football. Like, That's
I
not
could have
any
sworn
type of storyline.
that was going to be like a 1 p.m. game when they announced the opponents a couple weeks ago. I think we were all in agreement. Since it is in MetLife, I know me and Matt are definitely going to go to something like that. But Bengals Giants and Sunday Night Football, it just seems like very random, just completely out of the left field for that one to be a primetime game, if I'm being completely honest. Like I said, not only is it not in the division, but out of conference, and three of the four teams that the Bengals play let me rephrase that. Three of our primetime games are against three of the NFC North teams, and the Eagles aren't one of them.
Yeah, that makes no
Why?
sense. I don't know.
That
Yeah.
makes no sense to me at all. Again, the Commanders, Dallas, I can kind of understand, but the Commanders and the Giants on Monday and Sunday Night Football, and the one game we have against the Eagles is a 4 p.m. I don't personally understand that for us.
I don't get it.
I mean, they did do us justice in Week 10 for Sunday Night Football, the Super Bowl we wanted last year with the Lions and the Texans.
Yes,
That's America's Super Bowl, but I mean, that's justifiably one of the better primetime games, I will say. Arguably, Rams Lions takes it. That's always going to be it. But the NFL really messed up on the primetime this year. I mean, I get Minnesota slacked off and we don't have Kirk Cousins, but they're not going to shine light on the big boy Justin Jefferson. That kind of upsets me. That's just truthfully honest. You're going to shine more light. No offense, Matt, but to Daniel Jones and his rookie Malik Neighbors, I get it's the hundredth year, and that probably is the reasons. It's the New York market, bigger market team, bigger value for the NFL. So it definitely makes sense there. How they made these matchups, hands up, don't know. Um, anyway, jumping straight into international. I know Will, you got a lot of anticipation behind this. I want to start off first with Eagles Packers being the first international game on week 1 Friday night. I I don't know why it's week 1. I really don't. It's a great playoff implication matchup, like you said, Will, before. It's a great game that could have a lot on the line if you put it into the middle of the season, middle to the end of the season. We're not talking like the last 3. We're talking like week 10 to week 15. I can see that matchup. But week 1 in Sao Paulo, that's kind of questionable decision, don't you say? And plus, isn't it overriding with their soccer team down there that the stadium's being held out with that NFL game because the soccer team would be having their home game there, if I'm not mistaken, because that's right in the spring of things for soccer worldwide.
it's a definitely a really interesting thing, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. How I look at it is, I'm not a huge fan of these international games, especially having four of them in one season, or sorry, five of them in one season. Three of them are in London, one of them's in Munich, and then one of them in Sao Paulo. Now, if you're looking at a game like the Packers and the Eagles, like you said, Greg, huge playoff implications right off the bat in the NFC. As a fan of either of those teams, I would be upset because you're not going to Lambeau, you're not going to Lincoln Financial Field, you're going to have no home field advantage. That's less of a chance for the fans of those teams who actually want to see a game like that go to the field and get behind their team. I think having a big time matchup like that to drum up the sport outside of the country, in theory, is a good idea, but in practice, I don't specifically like it. Another aspect of these international games is, why are we having three in London? I get having one. I get that they're trying to figure out a market there, but having three games in London and the Jaguars going back to back like they did last year in London, again, I don't really see a point to that. If I'm a fan and my team's playing two of their games in London, not at home, that would piss me off because I'm not realistically going to go out there to watch a football game. The one in Munich, I understand the Giants, the Panthers, not a crazy amount of playoff hype between either of those teams. I can understand bringing a game out there one time during the year. But for these other, bigger high profile matchups, I'm not behind it. So I want to hear your guys' opinion on this because I think it's a pretty interesting topic.
Matt, go ahead.
So I don't have a problem with like the games that they put in London, because if you're gonna have a game right now, or not in London, but just international in general, if you're gonna have a game in international or an international game, they're probably not going to be good games right now. You want to have the best games in the country. Um, having Jags having 2 games, it kind of makes sense, I think, because I mean, for years now, the Jags have been one of those teams that people have been saying could go to another country if they were to move from Jacksonville. So I think that makes sense. So this kind of expands on those rumors in a way. And the Brazil game, um, because it's week 1, that's why I'm confused. I think that's just like Greg was saying, we just makes no sense really to have a week 1. I think that could have been a good game to have like middle of the season or something like that. And then Giants Panthers, yeah, like it's not a great game, but I know Giants are big in Germany, so I think that makes sense just to have the Giants internationally this year again. So yeah, overall, you know what? I had an idea too. How about instead of like let's say the NFL wants to expand international games even more and add more teams. They should just have an international week or international like 2 weeks in a season where they just do all the international games on the same week or within 2 weeks. I think that would be a good idea. And then they could then everyone expects to have their team internationally for at least a week instead of just, oh, who's going to be international this year? Like, who's going international? When is it going to be? Is it going to ruin the schedule somehow? Is it going to ruin bye weeks? They should just have like a whole week, just all international games. I think that would be
Yeah,
cool.
that's definitely not a bad idea. And getting back to the Jaguars point, that's interesting. I actually read, the Jaguars have only had one over the past 3 years. I think they've only had two primetime games in the country, and that's due to their owner. He basically said to the NFL that he will play these international games to drum up support for the NFL in exchange for I don't even know what he could have potentially got, but he's definitely got a backdoor deal for something going on with the NFL because the Jags are always there. This is the second year
Yeah,
in a row that they've gone 2 weeks in a row to London and played 2 games. So there's definitely some
3
backdoor deal going
weeks.
on there.
Wow, 3 years in a row?
Three,
Um,
three,
Three. Yeah,
3 years.
that's crazy. Wow.
so that's 6 games outside of the country. And if I'm a Jags fan, regardless if the team is good or not, and I want to go to a game, that's 9 less games. Not all of them would be home, but at least 4 of them probably would be. That's 4 less games that me as a fan am not going to be able to go and see. That would strike me the wrong way if I'm a fan of that team. And like I said, in a big game like the Packers and the Eagles, I want that to be in my home field. If
See,
that's going to be
now
that serious,
let me speak a little light to that because not only am I from New York and New Jersey, my team's going overseas into London to play the New York Jets. And who's their
yep,
quarterback? A long-term rival of the Minnesota Vikings, Aaron frickin' Rodgers. That is a game I would have loved to see at MetLife. Or if
right.
I'm in Minnesota, I would love to see that there as well because we were home. So be it. But in that case scenario, I can see what the NFL is doing. I'm going to justify them here. The NFL can persuade themselves, which they have current conversations with Germany, which is why they're breaching into Munich this year and last year, with possibly converting the NFL into an international sport with the German football league over there, which is kind of crazy concept because now we're talking another 8 teams you're going to maybe say, or you're going to maybe put it a 4 team into a international division. Let's just say like a Europe division, you want to call it.
I
And
mean, they
surprisingly,
tried they tried that back in '04 to '06 with the Euro League. The NFL had a Euro League for 2 years, which wasn't sustainable. And the
but
main thing that I would say against having a team in England or somewhere in Europe that's not North America, dude, is the time zones, the jet lag. It would just be too. It'd be
now
too much.
going back into this, they're on the haps of becoming one of the most popular sports industries or sports companies or even just sport leagues to ever hit with having such a huge outcome come to their international games in Tottenham and in London, as well as possibly trying to convert it towards more of the southern hemisphere with, I believe, Brazil. That's what you said, Sao Paulo, and Munich. That's growth right there. I know that last year when the Jags played overseas twice, they sold out. They sold out in a week's matter time upon schedule release for those 2 games. And now we're about to see it. It's probably sold out currently, or it's going to be sold out within the next week since we just had the schedule release. But you can imagine how much popularity the NFL is getting and how big it's going to grow. I mean, we're already talking about a extension on the league for 20 weeks, as Joe Burrow stated in his press conference, for 2 bye weeks. We're already talking about possibly the conversion of the German football league into the NFL, which is the Euro League, as you were saying, Will. And we can lead this down the funnel and make it a big propaganda where all the money's flowing through to the NFL, and there goes the NBA, MLB, and what you want to call the MLS or the NHL? I mean, yeah, they have their overseas games, but I think it's more of like a 1, 2, or 3 series if you're talking about baseball out of 182 games, and if you're talking about basketball, it's the same measurement. I don't even think basketball has done that yet. They have their G League in international waters, but sorry, 162 games, 100 whatever. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know if the NHL does that. MLS is always going to be known for that because of European teams and clubs coming over to the American turf, as well as MLS players going over to European leagues. It's the concept of what world we're living in today. And truthfully, I don't think it's bad, but they shouldn't make the biggest games out there in international waters. And I'm going to stand by that. Like, Packers Eagles should not be week 1 and not be in Sao Paulo.
Agreed.
That should be
100%.
Atlanta. If you're going to talk Minnesota, New York, that can be in London because it's cross conference. Okay. But the implications are on the line of showing Aaron Rodgers we're still here. That's for a Minnesota Vikings fan. The Giants, Panthers, not a real lot of implications. I don't know the other 2 London games. I think the Chiefs are going over there probably, and the Bills. No?
No, it's the
Who's in
Jags
London
and
this
the
year?
it's the Jags and the Bears and the Patriots and the Jags.
Yeah.
I can see that because now you have 2 new faces of the franchises going over and coming into the league. First year, we're going to put you on a plane overseas, and we want to make you a splash. 750,000 people there were at the draft, Will. You remember that? 750,000 people for the 3 days were there to see Caleb Williams, Drake May, and all those big names. So I can see it. Proof is in the pudding. It just sucks that we're going to have to see one playoff game be played week 1.
Yeah, I would
Pretty
agree with that 100%. You know, to sum that all up, you know, I don't agree with the Sao Paulo. I don't agree with having 3 London games. I think the reason why a lot of these games sell out so fast is because if you're European and the American football is coming over, you know, if you're kind of interested in it, it's more of a novelty thing. I can't really say that I know anybody in my realm of the world who I know that's from another country that's interested in the NFL. You know, they kind of see it as a novelty. They come over to London, they'll buy a ticket, they'll slam beers, and then they'll go watch Arsenal and Spurs on the weekend. So I think the NFL is, you know, definitely trying to reach out and branch out and see how they can grow the game. But the way that they're doing it, I don't 100% necessarily agree with.
And that's why I think having the international week would be so good, because then you could have a lot of teams at once, but it's just 1 week. You know, I think that would be cool. And then they could just spread it out all over Europe potentially. So,
I I didn't get to, I went too far out of line with my thought, but I agreed with you, Chasky. I like that
yeah.
idea. I mean, it's a very unfolding tale.
Concept.
Like, you're now blocking off a whole week of U.S. citizens to not be able to attend those games in home cities. But if you don't make those games a high octane game like Philadelphia, Green Bay, that week will be clean. Have the Europeans or people over in Munich or people down in Sao Paulo understand the game of football and the concept for each team and what they bring, and then possibly grow into bigger games. That's where I lie. So I kind of agree with you, Jeff. I
Yeah,
kind of agree with you.
yeah, yeah. So, but they're gonna just keep growing. I mean, every year they're just gonna add more locations. I think Spain's next in Madrid at the Bernabeu, which is like one of the best stadiums in Europe. So,
Easily.
yeah, so that's gonna be big too. And they'll just keep growing, you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go to South Africa. I'm not gonna lie. They have a lot of
That'd be cool.
players coming in from South Africa.
Yeah,
A
and I'm
lot of
surprised they
players.
didn't go back to Mexico. That's what I'm surprised
I
about too.
Yeah,
agree. Yeah,
Mexico's
I would
huge.
think Mexico's would be definitely be a big market, or even up in Toronto, up in Canada as well.
Yeah.
They have their own league up there, so I could definitely see some expansion into those ends. So at some point, they should definitely go up there.
I mean, going down the line, oh yeah, the future's big and bold for the NFL right now. This is why we cover it. 3/32, baby. We ride. All right, let's just dive into it. I'm biting my nails trying to figure out how to place this. So if anybody wants to rip off their strength of their schedule, their team schedule, go for it. I'm still waiting to try and put the concept of who, when, and where JJ McCarthy will start for us.
Yeah, I mean,
So yeah,
I kind of talked about it a little bit before. The Bengals are playing the NFC North this year, which I think is a very interesting thing. The Giants, Commanders, Dallas, and Eagles. It's a tough division. Those are going to all be tough games. 3 of the 4, like I said, are going to be on prime time. And we're playing the Chiefs week 2, man. I like that. At first, I didn't, because the last 4 years that they've been growing this rivalry, it's been week 10 and onward. So it's big playoff implications right off the bat. But the Chiefs are coming off a game against Baltimore, and we're coming off a game against New England. So if we can get the Chiefs out of the way early in the season, that can definitely be a measure of the bar for the Bengals for the duration going forward. We get them out of the way early. We see how we stack up against the 2-time defending champions. So week 2 is going to be the first test of the season, and I like that. See how we play and see how we do on both sides of the ball. Moving on, we play the Giants Sunday night. That's going to be week 6. It's going to be week 6 against the Giants. And then we immediately go into another away game against the Browns. And that's where the schedule starts to get harder after we play the Giants. We go a 5-week stretch before the bye week. We play away to the Browns, home to the Eagles, home to Vegas, away to Baltimore, and away to the Chargers before the bye at week 12. So that's going to be a very difficult 5-game stretch for us, especially the 2 divisional games, both being away right before the bye week. I like our chances in a lot of these games, but I don't know how they're going to go yet. We have to see how the preseason goes. We have to see how week 1 goes against New England. That's going to be another trendsetter for us. One thing I will say that I also like about our schedule is we have our bye week late. We have our bye week 12, which means we only have 6 weeks left in the season after the bye, which I think is perfect. Because if you have the bye week too early, I personally believe that can take the wind out of the sails of a lot of teams. And then they have a lot of more time to go. Whereas if you have it week 12, it's a little bit more in the middle of the season to a little bit later. Whereas if the season's not going well, you still have 6 games to make it up. So I think having it before week 8 is hard for players and for the teams. It's hard because then you have 12 straight weeks, dude.
I don't really agree with that, because what if you're on a roll and let's just say the Bengals lose their first 2, and then you're on a roll and you win your next 8, and then you take halves for the next 2, and then you go straight into your bye week. Where's the team go for there? Then there goes all the momentum out of the sails. Now, if you have like a week, I would probably say your best bye week is probably from week 7 to week 10, because that gives you the synopsis of where we stand in the early season to then what we need to do to get to the postseason, if you know what I mean, because you still have the remaining 8 games to recover off of. 6 games is kind of hard to do, especially especially for you. You're the AFC North. You have Steelers, you have the Ravens, you have the Browns. It'll be a hard season for you. So, I mean, if you guys don't come off churning crazy, you can develop something mid-season and work upon it come your bye week, week 12. But go on. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying. I think for how our season is built this year, I like where it is because we come off that 5-game stretch and it's going to be hard. And then we have to go the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Titans, and the Browns right after that. So, I like where they put the bye week this week at week 12. Like I said, it gives us 6 more games to really make some kind of a push. I just prefer it later on because if you have it too early, in my opinion, you want your players to be tired for the bye week so they have that rest. And if you have it too early, maybe people get more likely to get banged up later on and you don't have that week of recovery that you may need. Because I'll be honest with you, Greg, our division, your division is going to come down to who can stay healthiest the longest. Because all 4 teams are good, both sides of the ball. Who's going to be healthy is going to win that division. And I'm telling you, it's going to be so hard to rank these teams in the NFC North and the AFC North. And
It is.
it's going to come down the stretch who can stay healthy. If there's 1 or 2 big injuries, man, you could be done before week 10. So
I know.
it's really good. It's really going to come down to who's being healthy. And like I said, for me, I like that being a little bit later just for the Bengals situation and who we play. So that's what I'm looking at our season. We go, we have the Cowboys away, which is going to be a tough game. And then we immediately have to go on the road to the Titans, another tough game. And then we play the Broncos and the Steelers to end the season. So overall, it's a tough year. It's gonna be a hard year for us in terms of the schedule. It's tough. We got a lot of tough teams, a lot of tough away games, a lot of tough primetime games. It's gonna be hard, man. So I think we have definitely one of the tougher schedules in the league just by looking at it.
Yeah, I would say you're like on the tougher end. I wouldn't call you middle of the pack. You're more on the higher end of the middle of the pack. But definitely, like, so are we. I'm not too sure about the Giants, but Matt, why don't you swing us around what's going on with the Giants for this
Yeah.
season?
So I think it's a tough schedule for the Giants, but it's spread out in a way that they're able to have a few tough games and then maybe bounce back with an easier opponent. But first 4 weeks are Vikings, Commanders, Browns, Cowboys, Seahawks, and then Bengals. Well, that's first 6. So looking at this right away, the Giants have to win week 1 and week 2 if they want to do anything this year. You got the Vikings, you got the Commanders, and you're laughing, but dude, that's true. I know just as much as you that this game is winnable for both of our teams, and it's going to be a
It
50-50
is.
game,
It is.
let's be honest. So that's really what that comes down to. Um, but the rest of it, I mean, you're facing AFC North. Like, I don't have that big expectations this year. I really don't. I know a lot of beat reporters for the Giants. There's a few that are optimistic, and there's a few that are like, this roster's not good enough for this year. And I'm kind of like in between. I think there's games that the Giants can take away because I still believe in Brian Dable. I still believe in, you know, most of this team. I would say defensively, I believe in the team still. Um, but yeah, the other few games that I'm worried about. So they have Philly, yeah, they have Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, Carolina, and then they have their bye week. So they could steal a few games here too. I think they could steal um, the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and then they could win out against Washington, and then they could beat Carolina and Germany. Um, so that's a good schedule for them the first half of the season before the bye. I think there's the thing about it is how many games are they gonna win 2 in a row? That's what I'm really confused about because like I've been saying, the roster's not great. Daniel Jones, you're not sure if you can trust him yet. Um, but like that's gonna be the key. I think the first half is are they gonna be able to win a couple of these? You can go on a few winning streaks, 2 games in a row here and there, and that will be key. Then after the bye week, Tampa Bay Bucks, Dallas Cowboys, New Orleans Saints, Baltimore Ravens, Atlanta Falcons, the Colts, and then we got the Eagles to end the season. That was similar to 2 years ago. They ended their season against the Colts in Philly, and it benefited them. People are hyping up a lot. So people are hyping up the Tampa Bay Bucks this year, and they're hyping up the Colts. I think Giants could beat both those teams personally. Both those games are at home, and I think those two games in particular are the most important games on the second half of the schedule. So if they could win both those games, I think they have a good shot at making the playoffs this year, or even getting possibly 10 wins. But like I said, I don't know. I'm still not going to be optimistic yet. I think the bar right now, the last time I checked, the bet Sportsbooks had them at 6.5 wins, and I would, if I'm betting on that, I'm betting under right now, but I'm still optimistic. I'm still optimistic. So like I said, Vikings Washington first two games. They win those two, I'm super happy. Like those, that's all I'm happy about. First two weeks. After the bye, Tampa Bay, Indy, you win those two games, I think the season will be good. So
I
that's
think
good.
I think for you guys as well, it's how many of these games can you pull at home too? You guys got to win at home.
Yeah, that's why
You
Vikings
gotta
is
win.
really
You gotta
important.
win at MetLife. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
why the
win at
first.
MetLife.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's why the
see.
first week's
I
so important.
see. I see later on too. You also play a team like the Saints later on. That's another game at home as
Yep.
well that you could potentially snag. Like for the Giants, I definitely think it's going to be, can you actually win at MetLife? If you can't, it's over, man.
Exactly, because there's so many winnable, like the games you'd think that are winnable are being played at home this year.
Yes,
Like
I see
Tampa
that in your
Bay,
schedule right now.
Saints,
Yes,
Indy, you know, it's just
Washington, you could sneak one away
Washington
from.
you can win both, I think. Washington win both. And then the Vikings. So let's say you beat Washington twice. Vikings, Tampa, Indy, Saints. That's 6 wins right there. If they could go at least like 4 out of those 6 games win, like I think they could have a decent year. I don't know. And they'll steal some of the harder games. I guarantee you that. They will steal some of these tougher games. I finally think that they might be Philly this year. One game. I really do. I think it could happen. Because they beat them last game of the season last year, and I was at home, and that was a strong Philly team, man. And Giants were struggling. So I know Saquon's there, but I think that's good advantage for the Giants. But we'll see. I like their chances though. A lot of these games.
Listen, I'm not going to say much since you shot out my Vikings a lot there, and you're
Yeah.
looking for a win.
Yeah.
It's fair enough, due to you, and that's why I hope me and you can send that game for week one and launch this podcast off week one right in the tailgate at
Yeah.
MetLife
Yeah.
Stadium.
For sure.
Hopefully, everybody will attend and we'll get it going. But to move off of that, I'm going to run down the Vikings. Of course, Vikings go to MetLife for week one at Giants. This is a winnable game. Do I think we're going to win it? Of course, I'm a fan. Is there a chance that we lose? Very high because we don't have our quarterback. We don't know who our quarterback is. Yeah, we have it on paper, but is he going to be developed? Which is pretty much this whole season and how I look at it. So this is my projections and how I ride. Giants, I'm going to take that a win. I'm sorry. Then we're going to go to the Niners. Sam Darnold's back and say he starts. We have Sam Darnold QB1 starting out with the Giants. We walk through, go to the Niners at home. Ain't going to happen. We're losing that, John. We are losing that. Getting clapped arene by Brock Purdy. Going to staying in Minnesota. Then we got Houston. Yeah, it's wraps. We start 1-2. That's going to be a rough one. Then we're off to Green Bay. This gets interesting. We still lose. We're going 1-3. That's how it's got to be. Sorry, 1-2. Yeah, 1-3. Then we're off to London against the Jets. This is where I think the New York fans think they got us with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Williams and Brees Hall. Nah, we take the sweep out of New York. Minnesota's here to stay alive in New York. Detroit, no. Then we have our bye. This is why I like the bye at week 6. Having the bye at week 6, we can finally adjust JJ McCarthy into the starting role and have him rip out onto the field come week 7 against Detroit. Now, Detroit at Minnesota, it's going to be in Minnesota, high divisional game. I think we can snag it. Their paper boy, their money boy, they're pretty much their baby coming from Michigan State or University of Michigan is now playing against their arch rivals, and we take the dub out of Detroit. Going to Los Angeles, going to be rough. We're probably going to take the L there. I mean, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, they always got our number. The Colts could be interesting. It comes down that like we're playing the AFC South, so we have somewhat of a strategy for them. We got the Titans, the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans. L for the Texans, possible win for the Colts. Jags we take the win, and I believe we take the L for Tennessee. Of course, our division's one of the tougher divisions. It's not the best case scenario for us, but it's really just riding on the growth of JJ McCarthy this season. I don't think we have full intention of making the playoffs. I don't think we have full intention of breaking the ceiling unless JJ McCarthy comes off as a miracle boy for us. And truthfully, I can see us missing the playoffs, riding out with JJ McCarthy on a high horse and seeing how we can develop our schemes, our team, and the whole adjustment center based off of him and his protocol and how he wants to play, as well as developing Justin Jefferson and having that JJ to JJ connection. I like the team that we have. I like the schedule that is in place for us to develop these teams, this quarterback, and develop our young studs. It's a great maneuver for our rookies. It's just going to be a pain for Justin Jefferson, as not only as a fan, but as him to go through this whole season and not have an inkling or a little inch to a playoff site. It's going to be hard. I don't think we make it. I'm going to be realistic here. Teams are a lot better in the NFC than what pursued. The quarterbacks that we face and the teams that we face during the season are a lot harder. With Houston coming off crazy, Atlanta's now coming with Kirk Cousins, Tennessee's swamped with a brand new offensive talent. I mean, the list goes on there. And our division is our division. We have yet to even talk about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams and all that. We face them twice. I think we don't even wrap it off there. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't split a series with at least one of our divisional rivals. And truthfully, I think it will be either the Bears or the Packers. Shockingly, it's not the Lions this year. I mean, if anybody has any confusions to that, like
I think you never know. Like I said, with our division too, those divisional games are just going to be a bloodbath, man. You're not going to know who's going to win that until the final whistle goes. I mean, you could steal a game from Detroit. It's not, unfeasible for you guys to do. I would say my question to you, Greg, is this: looking at your schedule right now, week one, you go into MetLife. Sam Darnold throws 3 picks and you lose. Are you starting JJ week 2?
No. We're not.
So you're planning to keep Darnold through San Fran, Houston, Green Bay, and the Jets.
Yep.
That's in my eyes. I don't see that happening, to be honest.
Bro, I pray that JJ McCarthy starts week 1. I pray, bro. That would be.
Why?
Oh, I can't wait. That would be so. Because Giants have him scouted like crazy, bro. They have him scouted crazy.
Roll back the film. I want to hear the words of Chasky. JJ McCarthy is one of the better quarterbacks coming out of this draft.
Yeah,
get out of here,
they have him scouted. They know all his weaknesses, all his strengths, bro. And they face him week 1. That's his first competition in the NFL, and you're telling me the Giants get to play him?
I don't think he starts week 1.
I don't think so either. I'm just saying that would be the best case scenario for the Giants. 2
I
rookie
mean, not
quarterbacks
really.
back-to-back weeks to start the year. I'll take that. Give me that.
Yeah, I would agree with
2 dubs.
Yeah,
do you have an answer for Justin Jefferson?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's all about the quarterback.
I mean,
all about the quarterback. Can he get the ball to him? Can he get the ball to him?
That's what the Buffalo Bills fans said when we were out there and Kirk Cousins slung it and they won it.
It's different.
By 3 in overtime.
I mean,
but
it is way different.
Like I said, getting back to my original question here, what is in your mind? What is the point where you have to start JJ? If it's let's say it doesn't get to week 6, you're bye. What is that point in your head where you say, all right, Sam Darnold has got to pack it?
Houston.
Okay, so you need to go 0-2 and then not play well to start the game against Houston, and you throw JJ in.
No, JJ will start Houston.
So you'd have to go 0-2.
0-2, and Darnold would have to probably have a heavy, heavy interception ratio to touchdowns. It would probably be like a 5-2 ratio. Let's just say that if it were taking small numbers, but in today's
I
NFL,
mean,
that could be 8-5, or it could be something crazy depending on how these offenses handle. But we play the Giants, and that is a mediocre matchup. It's mediocre, and I'm gonna be truthful here. It's like the Giants. Yeah,
That's one
you
of the
guys
best.
have
That's one of the best defensive fronts you'll play all year long, and that's not mediocre. What do you mean? Brian Burns,
the
Dexter
best
Lawrence, and
defensive fronts.
Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, dude, definitely. I still think that's
All
one of the
right,
best D lines you'll play all year long.
Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be on Good Morning America with Michael Strahan. Let's be real. I mean, he's not a threat to me. I can see your next Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. Yeah, those are massive. But to say that will be the best defensive
No,
front,
I said one
we
of the best,
play
not the best. Definitely one
we
though. One.
we have one of the best in our division in Detroit, as well as facing San Francisco right after you. Again, Houston just picked up Daniil Hunter, and we saw how their defensive front played. Then we have the Jets, who's the number one defense ranked right now in fantasy. And then we can go down the list to all these other teams. I think it's going to be a mediocre game. I mean, I don't think it's going to be uh, blowout. I don't think it's going to be a 7 point game, even, but it's going to be mediocre. It's either one team has the edge and the other doesn't. And truthfully, the only thing that's stopping the Giants right now is themselves with not having an offense. We don't know. You don't know what Daniel Jones is going to be like. Yeah, you have a weapon in Malik Neighbors. How's your O line looking? I mean, our O line's pretty good. We have weapons
I mean,
up the
last
galore.
time Daniel Jones played your team, it looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. So, just saying, dude.
I'm,
Like,
that's 2 years
I'm
ago.
just saying.
What
2 years,
that's
but
that's
still the same team, bro. I don't know. I
what
mean,
happened
if
to you
there's
week
any
one?
game
What
I
happened to
expect
you week one?
if there's any game I'm like Daniel Jones has a good shot to play well, it might be the Vikings. I'm not gonna lie. After seeing
it
what he
could be,
did
Okay,
2 years
man.
ago, just
that's
saying.
that's fair enough to say. It's fair
How
enough
many
to say.
different
But what
defensive players you got on that? Like, it's probably not a ton. So, and you
on
lost
what
a
on our
lot.
defensive side?
Yeah.
On our defensive side,
How many
I
new
mean,
defensive players you got in within
we
2 years?
we got Grenard, we got Harrison Smith. We redid our secondary, our interior linebackers are different. We drafted a high potential prospect from Alabama, one of the best defensive players in this draft. So I mean, it's going to be a hard game for y'all because, truthfully, where are the weapons at in New York besides Malik? You put two men on Malik. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to do it. Do I have to remind you the 42-0 week one against the Cowboys last year?
Yeah.
And then
I
what
mean, yeah,
happened?
it was a tough
Y'all just
game.
plummeted.
Dude, all I'm gonna say right now
Yeah.
is if the Vikings lose to the Giants, I'm starting JJ week 2. I don't care. If you guys lose to the Giants by more than a touchdown, or Sam Darnold throws more than 2 picks, you
It's
can't
not.
waste
We're not.
time. You can't waste time, bro.
Yo,
We can
that's
because
great.
there's a system. There's a system to develop him. I mean, it's been said not only in our internal staff but also through our coaching
I,
staff that he has to reach certain benchmarks for him to start.
And
So
that's
based
I
off
would
why
agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah, I'm just
his
playing.
his progression is that's how he's got to play. And
and
truthfully, it could come Houston. Sam
and
Darnold
that's
has the
why.
prove it game week 2.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
That's
just
why we
yeah,
won.
saying.
yeah.
That's
Are you
why.
trying to troll me right here? Like we don't
No.
have no time for no trolls. Come on.
No, Will
That's
has a point. No, my point is this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones and Brian Dable. This is it, bro. This is it. They need to win all the games they should win. This is it, bro. The Vikings have, you just said it. The Vikings have time they could lose a few games and move on with their lives. This year, Giants, no, bro. Like, they lose games they have to
It's,
win, they are going to get destroyed in the media and absolutely, like, and Dable might be gone, and Daniel Jones is already being pressured this year that his job is absolutely on the line. So this dude's he's gonna do anything possible to win games. I know that for sure. And there has to be a win for the Giants this week. This week one, it has to be. The Vikings on your hand, they're playing Sam Darnold. They're playing for the future. They're not developing Sam Darnold. They're just hoping to bring him out there and see what happens. They're hoping for
I mean,
JJ McCarthy to take his job. That's what they're hoping.
another aspect we can throw in there. We don't see T.J. Hawkinson till maybe before the bye week in Week 5.
Yeah, it's big.
We don't see him. So
Yeah,
it's
what
big.
we
That's
have
a big
we have
loss.
we got Robert Tunyon. I mean, yeah, thank the Lord for Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson's still there, Jordan Addison, and I mean Brandon Powell. But like, still, that's a decent squad to catch a win. It really depends on how hard we're going to try and pursue JJ McCarthy's future. I mean, that's just the realism there. I mean, not trying to stout forward, but I'm sure Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi can always try and cook up a playoff run mid-season. I just don't think it's going to happen,
Dude,
especially
all
in our
I'm saying
division.
is there's different levels of pressure here based on what the teams expect to accomplish. I think your Vikings are in a rebuild. I know it's tough to say, but they are, dude. I mean,
I
JJ
don't
McCarthy's not going to be a good starter year one. If he is, great on him. I'm just saying, like,
see. What's your
it's a
definition
rebuild.
of rebuild? What's your
New
definition of
QB,
rebuild?
new QB. You're starting a new QB year one, or you just drafted a QB is definition of a rebuild. That's a definition of a rebuild. When you draft a QB in your first year, you might think the Texans changed that entirely last year, but they were on a
So then, what
rebuild.
about
They
the Colts?
accomplished. Same thing.
What about the Colts?
It was definitely a
Colts didn't
rebuild.
rebuild.
New coach, new QB. I mean, how is that not a
That's it.
rebuild? You don't
That's
rebuild
it,
that
though.
quickly,
They,
though. I mean, they just
I
accomplished
mean,
a lot. The Vikings can do it. Kudos to them. I just think you gotta think it's somewhat of a rebuild if you start over with new QB.
I mean, okay. I'll say this: it's going to be on the tensions of a rebuild because we're getting so much cap space next year since of Kirk Cousins not being there. So yeah, potential rebuild. If this is a mediocre season, yeah, rebuild. There it is. But as a fan, I don't want to believe it's a rebuild since we have the number one wide receiver in the league, which could not be there this season. But I mean, truthfully, you could be right. I could be overlooking this and just being a
But
fan
I'm
right
just
here
saying
because
that because I saw what happened to the Giants when Brian Dable came in and Joe Shane that first year, and they overaccomplished to what
yeah,
happened the year after. I mean, that's scary. Like you don't want that. You don't want to fall in that trap. You'd rather have the bad year first, like with the new head coach, new QB,
the
whatever.
sustained growth,
Yeah, then
man.
to overachieve and then fall back down. Like let's hope that I mean the Texans are probably it's probably not going to happen with the Texans because I think CJ Stroud's too good and I
And they
think
got
their
way too
team
many weapons
they
now.
got so many weapons, good head coach and everything. But I mean, if for your sake, I would rather have the Vikings struggle a little bit this year and then take that huge step next year instead of vice versa, which I think is more likely than not. So,
That's what it should. That's how a proper rebuild should be. And I'm glad, Matt, you
yeah.
brought that
And
up. You
that's what
don't
happened
want
to
to get in.
Bengals too.
Exactly. You don't want to get.
it
You don't
happened.
want to get into that trap where you win a playoff game. You have so much pressure, then immediately comes to your team the following year. And if you can't live up to the hype, man, the train's
Crumble.
going to fall off the rails real
Yeah,
quick. And we
that's what
saw it
happened
last
last
year with
year.
the
Yeah.
Giants. Whereas if you have progressive, sustained growth from year 1 to year 5, like we're seeing in Cincinnati, when Zach Taylor came in for Marvin Lewis, we moved on from Andy Dalton to Joe Burrow. The year before we got Joe Burrow, dude, we were 1-15. The next year, 4-12, and then we went on the Super Bowl run. So it's like
Yep.
there has to be some progression of growth, and I definitely agree with what you're saying. Like as a Vikings fan and as being right there, you want to make sure that you're setting the groundwork for not this year. It's like for 5 years from now. You keep Jay Jettas, you keep try to keep the defensive pieces that you have. You try to grow JJ McCarthy, and if he's not the guy, all right, he's not the guy. You address it in free agency, you address it in the next draft, whatever the case may
Now,
be, but you want to have sustained growth.
Yeah.
No, I get it, and that's why I see us possibly shifting to JJ McCarthy after the bye week. I couldn't see it not happening there. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think it just all depends.
getting the tension out of me to say would we start in week 2 if Darnold throws 3 picks? It's not going to happen. I mean, truthfully, the benchmarks are in present, and the plan's already working through its process. I mean, we still have to sign Jettis to its contract, and then based off of his contract, we got to see how far we can go with him for that bag, because arguably we do have one of the better cap space scenarios going into the next season.
Yeah, now you got rid of Kirko.
Thank the Lord. Thank the
Thank
Lord.
the
See
Lord,
Michael
dude.
Penix.
Thank.
Let's jump into this. Since we've been chatting about some of the games like the Giants, Bengals, and the Vikings, Giants, we're going to be there. Us three will be at both of these games. This is where we go into, and my time to describe my journey. I'm going on this case of Road to 32, hitting all 32 teams' home stadium. Hopefully, I can see either one of our teams or my girlfriend's team, who are the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Matt. But truthfully, it's all I'm just going on the path and seeing where I can take the rest of this road. I'm trying to plan out 4 or 5 games, probably going to land for 4. Of course, going week 1, then I'm possibly trying to divulge myself into Minnesota, Jacksonville, CNT Law. I'll head down south. Possibly then going with the Dallas Cowboys to Carolina. I'll be visiting Big T Bizzle, Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Raiders with William Fancy Son over there in the top left. And then with Matt again, we are headed to Pittsburgh for Monday Night Football. That's where this journey is going to take me, and that'll land me probably at 14 or 13 games that I have done. Then I have to fight for the next, 19 to 20 games. We'll see what happens. But any games you guys want to shout out yourselves that you're planning on attending?
Oh yeah, me and Matt, you week 6, baby, Sunday night, Bengals Giants. We gonna beat you up in the parking lot, man. I'm gonna fight every
Yeah.
Giants fan that I come into contact with that night, man.
Yeah. You're not
I'll
gonna
be
want to do
there.
that.
I'll be there week 1 with you guys for the Giants and the Vikings. I think that'll be a good time. And then Bengals Giants as well. Kind of rare that we get to see them at MetLife, both our teams out there. And then I will be heading out most likely to see the Bengals play the Eagles at Paycor out in Cincinnati. So I'll be heading out there with my
Ooh.
mom, my dad, bring them to their first Bengals game. So we're planning that trip as well.
Better win
And
that
then
one.
yeah, I'll head. Yeah, I pray, dude. I don't want to see anyone from Philly and Cincy, man. I don't want to see anybody from those
Hell
neck of the
no.
woods. And then
The
I'll be
pack
going down
flies
to Tampa.
together. They flock
Yeah,
together.
they're not coming to Cincinnati, dude. Ain't nobody
Uh,
goes there, bro. If they got a choice, man.
Hey, we did week 1 in 2021 when the Vikings put the Bengals at Paycor Stadium, or was
That
it
was a
Paul Brown Stadium back then?
It's still P Bizzle. It's still P Paul Brown Stadium. Yeah.
Paul
Now they
Brown.
changed it to Paycor. But yeah, so
Oh yeah.
those are the 4 games that I'll be at this year. Looking forward to getting out to Cincinnati again and seeing them at MetLife. So it'll be a fun one, man. It'll be a fun one.
Yeah, so same with me. Vikings week 1, Bengals week 6, Pittsburgh away Monday night. And then I might go to another game with my family later in the year. I don't know yet, but yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just be ready for week 1. I'm a start knocking on your door, being like, "Listen, bro, beans, we gotta head it going," and I'll be all purpled
Bro,
out. I got my hat, I got my horns, I got my chain, and I got my paint. That's all I need.
we Week 1, I don't even know what potential jersey I'm gonna wear to the Vikings and the Giants. I think I'll pull out the McPherson jersey for that one,
you
dude.
do that, I'm gonna make sure you get beaten up in the parking lot at MetLife if you
I
do
don't.
that.
You and me both. You and me both. You and me both.
uh,
You and me both.
I'm not wearing purple or blue or any of that, man. I'm going completely neutral. I
good,
might just
good.
wear black.
Listen,
I don't know. I'm
if
gonna go
you go
black.
to if you go to a football game and you're wearing neutral, why are you even going?
Nah, I do
Why
Because
are
I
that.
you
don't put on
even
other
Nah,
teams'
going?
no, that
jerseys.
makes
I don't put
sense.
on other teams'
Dude,
jerseys.
dude, I
That's
went neutral
crazy.
to when Will and I went to the Jets Bengals game. What was that, like 2 years ago? 3 years ago? I don't
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
I went neutral, and just to let you know, who won that? Or remind me actually, who won that game? I'm pretty sure. I think it was the
Dude,
Jets.
that was
I
that was the Mike White
Mike
fiasco.
White ripped on you guys for a new franchise record for the Jets. And I think
Yeah,
he's in
that
the
was
Hall of Fame now, believe it
crazy.
or not, for like some record. I don't know.
Ouch.
But yeah,
That was the
so
worst game I've ever seen live.
MetLife might not be the Bengals place to play. Just saying. I don't know. Just letting you know.
All I'm
Right
saying,
on.
man, is week one, I'm going neutral. I'm gonna watch from a completely neutral perspective. I'm not putting on another team's jersey. That's not happening. I'm not selling myself out like that.
Yeah, don't bother.
You're right.
I wouldn't
You already
either.
sold
I'm not
yourself
doing
out.
it.
You're a Bengals fan. You already sold yourself out.
Oof, that's
I've been
bold to
sold.
say that.
I've been sold, dude.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez. All right. So let's get this banter out the way because we have plenty of more episodes to do that. Some of the questions I want to rip off. Matt, truthfully, do you think your team makes the playoffs this year?
Nah. I I'm optimistic, but I don't. I think the roster is way too many holes. Way too many holes. And yeah, it's Daniel Jones. If he puts up, let's say this, Daniel Jones throws 30 touchdowns, I think the team will be a good spot, but he has never done that in his career. So, I don't think they make playoffs, but I do think they compete. I think they'll have a lot of close games, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs now.
Okay, now going off of that question, out of all 6 of your primetime games, how many of them do you win?
Um, I would say, well, definitely against Carolina. Well, that's not really
I was
prime
gonna say,
time.
yeah. Subtract Carolina.
Subtract Carolina. Okay. I think we might beat Pittsburgh. I think we steal that one. I think
Shocking.
we
Okay.
beat. I want to. So I said we beat. Like we're not playing Philly in prime time, but I said we'd beat them once. I'm gonna jump on that and throw in Dallas in there too. I think we beat Dallas once. I think we do that first Thursday of the year. I think we beat them our Thursday night game for the Giants this year. So I think we do that. So that's two. Bengals will lose too. And then what else we got? Then we got Cowboys again on Thanksgiving. We'll lose that. So I'd say two at most, hopefully.
Two at most.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let me switch this over. Will, for a man that's been preaching that the Bengals, the Vikings, and the Giants all finish fourth in their division, let me hear it straight, and I want to know your truth. Where do you see the Bengals being placed in the AFC North at the end of the season?
Realistically, it's hard to say because I think it's really hard to say because if everyone stays healthy, I think we definitely can make a playoff push and potentially finish second in the division. But if we have another year that's plagued by injuries, we could easily be fourth. Realistically, I think we finish third. And I will say that bold move here, very hot take. I think we finish above the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think we move one spot ahead of them, and I will say this as well. I'm going to be saying this all summer. I think there's a very, 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 very realistic chance my division and your division, Greg. There is a potential scenario where all four of those teams can make the playoffs in the same year. I can see it. I can see it.
Uh,
What?
no, if you were gonna
Come
say
on.
this year, nah, not this
I
year.
can
It's
see it.
not gonna happen. Not
I
this year.
mean,
It's
I can
gonna.
see it, man.
tentative.
I can see it in maybe a year, but not this year. Not for Minnesota. I truthfully think we're not making.
It
But
depends. It depends how the season goes, and like I said, it's really going to come down to how the injuries play out and who wins and steals games from other teams. But I think realistically, I think we finish third in the division. I'll say it. I'll stop it
okay,
there.
Can I? And
okay.
I want to say too, the Steelers have one of the hardest schedules I've ever seen, like the second half of the year, like ever.
The Browns have the hardest schedule in the NFL.
All right, there you go. So, dude, what if they both like both those teams just have bad years because the schedule's so hard? Like, it could happen. We're
I
hyping
mean,
up these teams a lot. Bengals can
yeah,
take it
it's
then.
very true.
I was high on the Steelers up until I saw their schedule. Now I'm starting to think
Yeah.
Bengals will take it and Ravens will be there too. And I just think Browns will be like, like last year, mediocre, good defense, mediocre offense type of year. So, but yeah.
All right, fair
Uh,
enough. So, a question I want to ask you both is having to that I just said the Browns have the hardest schedule in the NFL. Opposite end, the Atlanta Falcons have the easy. This is the year Kirk Cousins can prove it. Do you think we see the Falcons starting off as an undefeated team, going 7-0?
nah.
Can we see a Falcon? Can we see a Falcons push to the in the playoffs out of that division? I mean, you have the Saints, you have the Panthers, and you have the Bucks. That's kind of an easy division.
I think
I
And then
don't
who
think.
else
I
do you have
mean,
to fight for?
dude, their first 6 weeks are hard, man. I mean,
They have the
they
easiest
play.
schedule.
Yeah, but the first 6 weeks they play the Steelers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Bucks. I mean, those are hard games for any team to play. I mean, later on, it does get easier in the second half of the season. But going 7-0 to start, no chance. I think they start 0-3.
yeah, I do too.
You think they start on time?
I think
Yeah.
they start 0 and
I
3. I don't see them beating the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. To have those 3 games to start your season, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
that's tough. That's
That's
really a tough
that is
season.
terrible. That is a terrible start.
No, I agree though. Like after
The
like
later
where
half, the later
yeah,
half, yeah.
because then you got like New Orleans, Denver, Chargers, Minnesota, Las Vegas, Giants, Washington. Yeah.
Panthers
Yeah,
twice.
Panthers but that
I think
the
they
first 6 games, yeah, it's who knows.
I think that they win that division though. I will say that.
yeah. Do you
I think
think
they
they make a?
I think they
Do you think they make a playoff push?
no. I think they
Like
win the
like
division.
when they're in the playoffs because if they win the division, they're in the
Yeah.
playoffs. Do you think they go to the divisional? Do you think they go to the conference? Do you think they only stop at the wild card? What?
I think
Or
that
do
it
you
definitely depends
can
on the
they hold
matchup.
on? Can they land that 1 or 2 seed? That's high up there. If you're talking about schedule strength, it's all based off your schedule. You could land the second seed and have sit behind the Lions in number 2 and have a bye week 1 at the playoffs.
I still don't think that they'd be able to snag a 1 or a 2 seed. And then realistically, if we think about this, they're going if they get the 3 seed, they're going to have to play the runner up to the AFC or the NFC West or the NFC North. So that's good. That could be the Packers, that could be the Rams, that could be the Bears, that could be and anyone on that NFC side. It's going to be hard for a team like the Falcons to pull out a win, even if they are home. I think they win the division. I don't think that they win a playoff game. I'll say that.
Okay.
I don't
Matt,
think
you have any
they
other?
I think Tampa wins that division for sure. I think Tampa Bay has the best roster in that division by far. So, I think Tampa wins the division.
Okay. I know. This is a question for one of the homies since he's probably in his mind thinking, "What's with all this Steeler slander?" Why do you guys think, not only based off the schedule, but is there anything else that can prove to you that the Steelers will not make the playoffs this season, or is it strictly based off that schedule?
I would say it could be they could have trouble if Russell Wilson struggles. They could have trouble if either Justin Fields isn't ready. Like, let's say Russell Wilson gets all the first team reps preseason and OTAs and all this stuff. Justin
I
Fields
just
would have to jump in if Russell Wilson's having a bad half of the year, and then I mean things could get sloppy. And their wide receiver core is still pretty bad. I mean it's not the greatest. They're gonna rely on their run game a lot, like last year. It's
they
really
always
up to
have.
yeah. So it's really up to their offense whether or not they can get like consistency in QB play.
Now, I say this all the time: defense wins championships, but it don't win you 17 games.
Yeah.
No, it does not.
Can't win you 17 games.
Yeah.
Their defense is arguably one of the in top 5 defenses of the NFL. They are. and that's going to be
But you got to put
at
up
that
points.
point.
Yeah.
It's I would like to see the Steelers in the playoffs again. Sorry, I just would, but it really is going to come down to those two. Last question to wrap us up here, and it's really just to basically banter all the Jets fans that watch us. What's your projected record for the New York Jets? What do you think they go? Do they win the AFC East? Or are they sore losers and Aaron Rodgers finally retires? What's your projected record? You
Well,
take a moment.
They're getting smacked week 1. I can tell you that much right now. They're going to get absolutely decimated by the 49ers. I'm just taking a look at their schedule right now.
I'll tell you
Yeah, take a
straight
look
up.
at the
I'll tell you. I think they get 11 wins. That's what I think.
11 wins. Wow.
Yes. I
Okay.
think they get 11
Okay.
wins. Their schedule's easy this year.
Okay. Okay. And you think they solidify the AFC East?
Yes.
Fair enough. What about you, Will?
I'd say probably 9 or 10. I
9
really
or
hope
10.
that they don't. I really hope they don't make the playoffs, but I think
If they had Aaron Rodgers
they.
last year, they would have won like what, 10 games easily. So
Yeah, I think so. I think that this is the year that they finally lift it and they do realistically make the playoffs. I wouldn't count the Dolphins out from winning the division, but I don't know. I'd
We
say it's
should
probably
not.
9, 10 games.
It pains me to hear this from you guys because I was really hoping for you guys to just go off the rails and be like, screw the
I want
Jets, they're not
to.
making the playoffs.
I want to.
Their
Don't
schedule's
get me
not that.
wrong.
Their schedule is arguably not that terrible, man. It's
The
not.
first half of the season, they play Tennessee, New England twice, Denver,
Yeah.
Vikings, and then
Arizona.
Arizona. Yeah, so like all
Yeah.
those games they should win. And then they'll steal
So
They'll
you
probably steal a Buffalo game. So
so part to this question, do you think this team can go undefeated the first 7 weeks?
nah, they'll lose to the Steelers. I mean the 49ers. They'll lose to
I think they go. I think that
Houston.
they start the season. Yeah, they lose to the 49ers. They're definitely losing to Houston. I don't see. I think the game with you guys in London can kind of go either way. I would say that they're probably going to beat the Vikings there, but then potentially maybe lose to the Steelers. I don't know. The Jets. The Jets are a team. Again, we saw it last year. They're one injury away from just completely crumpling, and I think they're a big question mark. They got all the pieces, but can they finally put it together and can they stay healthy? So yeah, I'd say 9, 10 games, and they could top Miami.
Okay. Matt, any closing argument?
I just think people are hyping them for a reason, and that's because Aaron Rodgers. And if he's only like 70% of what he used to be, that still is better than any QB they've ever had in their history. So I still think they have a good idea or a good chance to win a lot of games this year if he's healthy. That's
All
it.
right. There's a little slander right there. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
It's true though.
At the it is. It's very true. All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. We went over the NFL schedule. I know everybody's anticipating for the equations, predictions for the win and lose over under totals that I have and that I put out. Please hop in the Discord if you aren't, and definitely keep your eyes peeled. Next episode, we're going to go over that for each and every team, as well as develop more of an understanding of what really is going on in our franchises. As we see the Giants coming to Hard Knocks, Bengals still figuring out their trade possibilities, and the Vikings still need to sign their money boy. But yeah, thanks for tuning in and listening to us for this episode, and hope to catch you next time. And yeah, let's get it going. The NFL season is only three months away, baby.
Yup, see you.